So the exciting topic of Web3 games gets to be the last panel of Breakpoint before closing remarks, and we're really excited and honored. Thank you, my fellow panelists. Our very broad topic today is final boss. Can Web3 games win over Web2 gamers? I'll start at the very end. Dan, can you share your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, well, first of all, nice to be here. Thanks to everyone for staying late on the last day. I'm Dan Borstelman. I run engineering and product at Fractal, which some of you probably know. And our thoughts on Web3, Web2, I don't see them as different things. The first thing we think about when we think about Web3 gaming is we think about gaming. And that doesn't mean that there's a Web 2 and there's a Web 3. There's just everyone trying to have fun and be players together. And so there are definitely new economic models that we're supporting. It's all why we're here at the conference today. But we want to help make sure that most of the people that are not yet in Web3 gaming that may play games in a non-crypto way can get onboarded into Web3 as efficiently as possible, and that we can support games like Laddercaster and others in whatever economic models they want to provide. And there's a lot of different opportunities there. Some people are, everything's on chain, like a Laddercaster, for example. You guys you're really pushing the boundaries there, and actually Andrew here working on Raindrops is pretty similar in terms of the contracts they're putting together. But there's also a lot of cool games that are, building with slightly fewer things on chain, but they're still wanting to make sure that they get the benefits. And it's about benefiting players in the end, but it's also about benefiting the game developers themselves, because if we can't make this work for game developers, we also can't actually launch games because they won't get built. So both of those things have to go hand in hand, and we just want to make sure that people have the best opportunities in gaming, and that they can, people can earn, we can give some ownership back to the players, which is why Web3 gaming is important, and that exists on a spectrum. So I guess that's a little intro.
Thanks, Dan. Andrew, some thoughts on the topic?
Sure. I'm Andrew Long, CEO of Raindrop Studios. For our a view on this is, crypto was really all about allowing the unbanked to be banked, and gaming and Web3. Really at the end of the day, we're trying to make banking fun. And it just so happens to have a gaming component to it. Just like Dan had said, Web 2 versus Web 3. We don't look at it that way. We look at it as it's about the experience. It's about what this person is doing and how that feels. And it's not that you tack in these tokenomic systems and whatnot. They're just core to the experience. They make the experience flow better. That's what I think is going to be in the end what makes Web3 and gaming something successful, is that you stop focusing on trying to make a game have tokenomics, and you just take these digital economies that already exist in pretty much every video game, and you apply it to the experience to make it be a great game at the end of the day.
Yeah, we ask game studios a lot that work with Solana or want to work or build on Solana, why Web3? And hopefully there's a deeper reason than just we like tokenomics. What do you think about that, Aiden?
Yeah, so well, first, hi everybody. I'm Aiden. I'm co-founder at Ladder Labs. We built Laddercaster. It's the first fully on-chain game on Solana. So us being on this end of the spectrum with an unreleased game in Star Atlas, we get this question a lot. Kind of why Solana, why Web3, all these sort of things, why fully on-chain. There are a lot of nuances to that answer, and I think it really depends. And kind of like what we've been talking about already, I think depending on the game model, the actual type of game, not everything has to be on-chain, but there are some benefits to having components on-chain. And you can really leverage a lot of the, if you're building with a first principled look at Web3, there are things that you can do that you couldn't otherwise do in Web 2, and that's what makes it really compelling for whatever product. And then gaming, it's almost amplified, right? Now you have this interconnectability, you have this composability, you have this ability to actually bring people in and incentivize them to play different things and reward them for playing different things, even at like the nanoscale level, right? Like fractions of a penny you couldn't otherwise do. So not to talk only about the monetization, but these are things that are really interesting in game economies that already exist outside in Web 2, kind of like what you guys were talking about. And I think that the interesting thing about Web 3 is that when you combine all of that together, and you're really building something with a focus on how to leverage that technology and all of these things that come with it, then you can start building something really unique that you've never seen before that people don't otherwise, maybe they don't even know that they want. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with Laddercaster, is sort of a proof of concept there, but you see that more and more, with major games like Star Atlas and things like that, that people think it's a major ambitious project, but at the end, you might see something flourish out of that, like a true virtual economy, and entire, community that you otherwise wouldn't see if it weren't for the beauty of Web3.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, I think I align with a lot, where there really is no difference between Web2 and Web3 games. Web3 games is somewhat early, but as long as we focus on fun and player experience, the value prop of Web3 will kind of bubble up to the top almost organically. Where do you guys feel about where we are in the Web3 games industry as a whole as builders? We'll start with Dan.
All right. Well, it's a diverse group of people. I think it started with a lot of folks that are really crypto native, Web3 native, and folks that are building things from, I don't want to say from a crypto perspective, but people that were very understanding of the mechanics of crypto and willing to build things either maybe not always on chain completely, but with an understanding of it as like the core for why they were excited about moving to Web3. And I think what we're seeing now that's really amazing is when you pair that excitement and the infrastructure that has been built out and like those business models starting to be proved out and the mechanics of those games starting to be proved out, we see a lot of like bigger Web2 gaming companies or small Web2 gaming companies that were maybe like crypto curious but not actually taking the plunge yet. They are starting to come over and join Web3 as well, and we'll see that over time. It's going to take a long time. Like games take a long time to build, and games take a long time they're big organizations, especially the bigger game companies, so it's going to take a while for that to really shake out. But the cool thing is that we're seeing people come over, especially, I mean, we don't have to talk about regulation on this panel, but outside of the US, there's a lot of, like, especially in Korea, places like that, there's a lot of really big gaming companies that are excited about the potential of Web3. And I think the really important point here, and I guess I touched on this a little bit earlier, is that gaming it doesn't have to change that much to come over to Web3, unlike a lot of other industries. It should change to some degree. That's why we're here, to open up new models. But under the hood, games were already digital assets. They just sat in a SQL database rather than a blockchain. Whereas like in maybe the art world or in the finance world, the gap between DeFi and PFPs and their precursors in the Web2 world were pretty vast. But in Web3, in gaming, it's not nearly that vast because of the way things were already digital. And so I think it makes it really appealing for gaming companies to come over because it doesn't require that much of a transition. And you could even theoretically build a game where all the assets were completely on chain without even like your users knowing. Now, I'm not saying that they should lie to their users or whatever, but it makes it really palatable for people to start testing the new waters and building for those new models. And that's why I think gaming is the place with the most utility for Web3 right off the bat. I mean, we saw it on Games Day on Friday. There were so many people there. It was awesome. Thanks to Johnny for helping put that together, because that was a really exciting event for Fractal too, and getting to see how many people were excited about Web3 gaming. So I think that's a little bit how we see it.
So we started in our industry with this play to earn moniker and a product that was focused on that aspect. Where do you think we are from that, Aiden?
I think it's a good question. It's something that we talk about a lot. It's actually the reason we built our game in the first place, was because there were a lot of Web3 games that kind of obfuscated a lot of Ponzi schemes, right? And I think that's really unfortunate because we kind of started off on the wrong foot. At the same time, you still had this proof of concept in all of it. You had onboarding of millions of users and hundreds of thousands of people playing games like Axie, which is, I mean, if you think about play to earn, that's obviously the first thing that comes out. you had like hundreds of thousands of people playing this game on mobile that happened to be a crypto game. People didn't even need to know that it was actually crypto. And I think that was like a kind of a step in the right direction, but obviously the economic models were a step in the wrong direction. And truthfully, like, we really were frustrated with getting rugged on every single game that was on blockchain. And so that's kind of why we pivoted to build what we're doing. And I think that there's sort of a give and take, right? I think there are all kinds of new labels that are no longer play to earn. There's like play to own, there's play fi, there's all kinds of these different labels. And I think they're trying to group too many different genres into a basket. And I think people should start thinking about these games as their own category of games, just as they have their own verticals in regular gaming, and that they're amplified in one way or another way with Web3 components. And I think that's kind of the way we should be looking at it. It should be just game, and then what's on chain. Is it, you know, the player-to-player economy? Is it just the NFTs and the collectibles? I think that there's kind of those things that we should be thinking about, but I personally don't like putting labels at all on games. It's just like, what part is on chain and how much can you abstract for the user? Because at the end of the day, nobody really cares. We'd rather just play the game and not even know.
Yeah, I agree with you, the play-to-earn thing, because it was a DeFi product, right, with a gaming UI.
Totally.
Gave us a rough start, a kind of bad reputation. Developers have moved to largely using play and earn or free to own. We've been socializing play and own, right? That's what the blockchain empowers in Web3 games. But the ownership word goes deeper than just owning your digital items, right? In Web3, I hope the vision is, and we shared this all, is play and own digital items, yes, but the deeper level is for the player to own their data and for the player to own their progression across platform, across studios, and across titles, right? Andrew, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and that's one of, I think, the biggest value adds of the Raindrops protocol being that layer, really, that all these games are able to sit on. You know, if everybody's speaking the same language and has these same tools at their disposal to be able to create these experiences, you know, we have this ability to really ascend beyond the game. Like, I mean, that's something that not really exists in the Web 2 world, because, you know, you have these silos that are really created and whatnot. But having that layer where these players can actually, you know, when you're playing a game, you're using your energy really to engage in this experience. And if that energy just gets lost to being in this one tiny experience in this one tiny setting, like it's almost like, you know, with Bitcoin and like proof of work, right? You're just spending all of this electricity. Sure, you're actually, you know, securing the blockchain, but the energy is wasted. And I think the same thing happens with gaming, where, you know, these people have these players and they have these items, and these items actually tell stories, and the players tell stories of what this person that has used this item has done in a game. And I think that's something that's just the provenance in general of each specific item becomes so much more than just the general term of NFT. They really do become these non-fungible tokens that you can't compare them to anything else, because they have their own story within a game.
Yeah, so, you know, and I think we'll all agree here, basically blockchain is a part of games backend, right? And to get to that deeper vision of play and own in Web3 games, the whole ecosystem of developers have to share that vision and basically build together, right? Mm-hmm. Dan, as an infrastructure builder yourself in our space, how do you work with others?
Yeah, that's a great question. We work with a lot of different people. I almost feel like my job is more partnerships than it is engineering sometimes, and that means a lot of different things. The number one thing is working with games and listening to games, because at the end of the day, what they need is what we should all be building as infrastructure providers. And so I'm on the phone with games so many times a week, it's almost too much, but I love it, and it was good to see you all here this weekend, and I talked to so many different people. I see some people out there right now that I definitely had great conversations with, and you know, folks like BR1, who's I think here today, which was exciting to see. Like, there you're right there. You guys are like awesome partners to work with. There's so many others. Laddercasters helped us design a lot of our APIs as well. So, you know, that's the number one thing, is listening to game developers as much as possible in terms of what Fractal needs to build for them. And Fractal is a little bit of a higher level of infrastructure than some of the other people out here. Like, you know, Raindrops, you guys are writing smart contracts that anyone can use. Solana is building a blockchain that anybody can use. Our job at Fractal is to build things a little bit more not necessarily bespoke, but a little more high level and approachable to game developers to make it as easy as possible to integrate with. And it's not that Solana isn't great and smart contracts aren't great, but there's a lot of technical know-how that is involved in learning how to use those tools, especially in an early space with kind of, I don't want to say bad infrastructure, but earlier stage, like more half-baked infrastructure than maybe the Web 2 world. And so Fractal sees itself as someone who can help build some of that connective tissue across people. So partnerships is a huge priority for us, and that bleeds right over into the other infrastructure providers. I know, Andrew, we've talked about raindrops a lot of times. We work with open source contracts as much as we possibly can, like Metaplex and others. So partnerships is really, really important for the interoperability. We spend a lot of time launching NFTs at Fractal, and we're making sure that everything is up to the Metaplex standard because it makes it easier for everyone to consume. So we need to be friendly with each other. We're all building and succeeding together, and we need to be able to focus on interoperability because it's also the opportunity in Web3. We see games like I think MetaOps and some of our other games have done cross-community collaborations already on Fractal and within their own communities, which is really exciting because it's what Web3 is about. And to be able to see people doing that in a way that feels, I guess, it feels like everyone's kind of in this together from the game developer standpoint in a way that is really amazing to see. And so we like to support that as much as possible.
Thank you. So, Andrew, to your earlier point, Web2 games backends are custom, siloed, do not communicate with each other. A lot of times, even across the publisher, a single publisher, their game titles and the players can't progress across them, right? I think we all agree that the Web3 games vision and the value prop to the players should be different, but I could see easily we end up in a very similar place as Web2 games backend now, right? Closed source, custom, and no interoperability. How do we ensure that we don't end up at the same place again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to just the inherent openness that blockchain has had from day one, right? I mean, when you're building these smart contracts, even if you want to close source them, there's still geniuses in the space that have created these decompilation tools that spit out the actual original source code at the end of the day, right? So what I love about Web3 is that you have that openness just with the data being on chain, that anybody can see it and look at it and see what is going on. And the people in this space are passionate enough to actually follow the trail. You see the scams and whatnot that go on where there's a hacker that steals a fund from this big market maker or something like that. On Twitter, within the first hour, you see all these sleuths going around on the chain, reading the data, and figuring out the clues. It's like a supercomputer detective it just doesn't exist in other worlds. And I think that's something that Web3 is going to really help with the Web3 not becoming Web 2, is that they're going to have to speak to these communities, and these communities in Web3 are vocal. They're together, and when they have some sort of a voice or message they want to get across, they do it together. And I don't think that these Web 2 games are willing to both risk the public image of having the angry mob come at them and not respond in a way that deals with it.
It truly is a lofty goal of getting to that Web3 games vision of play and own, of owning your digital items, the player data, and player progression. Aidan, what do you think about that? Where are we now, and how do we get there?
Yeah, I mean, credit to everything that's being done here. First of all, shout out to the entire ecosystem. I think the key thing that we're all saying in that interoperability, open source, having other people come in, audit your code, fork your code, use your code, just to help propagate more and more people, using the wonderful stuff that's being built. I think that's a huge piece. I just had to say that first. I think where we are in terms of, I think there's one thing that's really important. We haven't solved onboarding yet.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing. When it comes to this whole, Web3 versus Web 2, I think the big thing that people think about, or at least the scary thing that people think about often, is the crypto nativity required to get into Web3. Cryptography is very difficult to understand for an average person, and I still, hate mnemonic phrases. That's not a fun experience for anybody. You want to come in, use the normal Web 2 things that you've used before, easy one-click sign-ins and stuff, onboard as normal, easy payment on-ramping solutions and that sort of thing, because that's what you're used to, and you can't just kind of change that overnight and expect hundreds of thousands, millions, or billions of users to adopt that. I do, however, think we're really close to that. I think we're really close to onboarding experiences. We personally at Ladder Labs, that's something we really focus on. We're building an entire on-chain affiliate marketing and referral platform. And the idea there in the referral platform is that you have all of these different ways that all of these games can create customizable referrals for their users so that they can bring people in. So you're incentivizing people to come in, but you're also incentivizing people to share. And you're incentivizing people to come into now, if we figure out the onboarding thing, a very seamless experience that they would have otherwise anywhere else. And so the more that you start thinking about those things and abstracting this at the user level to something that people are actually really used to, then you start getting, I think, better propagation. I still think we're not there yet, and I think that there's not a lot of referable products in Web3 in general, and I think that's why we don't have hundreds of millions of users, and especially because if you're marketing a game as crypto, I mean, like, in a bear market, that doesn't sell. It doesn't sell at all. But if you sell it as a game, games do great in terrible economic circumstances. Right. And so the more that we abstract that user experience so that they don't know that it's crypto, even though you're still empowering users to own all of their assets, own all of these different things, and you have that player economy, I think that's where we start getting to a really interesting sort of a flow state where you have people onboarding themselves, onboarding each other, referring each other to really referable products that are fun and not overly complex to even just get started.
Awesome. Dan, you mentioned Solana Games Day. So
yeah.
maybe we kind of end on a more fun topic. Solana Games Day was on Friday? We're losing sense of time being here. But yeah, so Friday was Solana Games Day. And to your point, Aiden, they actually, every game there, so there was 33 studios, 37 games there, all with very polished builds. 15 of those games are live today, and the remaining 22 to 25 will be launched and live by the end of Q1. And they all are focused on onboarding, right? To get native Web2 onboarding experiences, and all of them are actually doing it slightly different from one another. So they represent a valuable experiment on like what is working and what won't work and so forth from Web 2 to Web 3 onboarding. Share your thoughts on how you experienced Solana Games Day and what jumped out at you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and to talk about onboarding, I mean, sorry to tag onto that last question, but like everything Aiden just mentioned is something that we're working on at Fractal extensively and is either live today or going to be live soon. And so like this stuff is real, right? Social sign-ons, fiat on-ramp, like those are all products we provide for games because we recognize that that's the most important way into Web3, and we want people that are coming into from Web2 to feel like it's just the same experience. Because I'll be honest, Web2 user experiences can be very good. Like, there's no problem with them. The problem is the economic model behind it. And so when we think about this stuff, we don't think about it as a separate initiative. And for example, like, for like a game like Eve.io, who existed before Web3, they ran the first tournament with Fractal and like signed in with our wallet, and the experience was the same for their user, right? They signed in with their Google account, and suddenly they had a crypto wallet, and they could start like onboarding into the game. So those experiences are incredibly important, and it's like what we saw at Games Day. I was really jet lagged at Games Day because I got there really early in the morning, but it was beautiful to see, and the energy there was palpable. And I do feel like with a bit of a bear market that we probably are all talking about, including the bear market rally we had yesterday with the go-karts, which was fun. We have seen like a lot of the speculation leave the gaming space. And to some degree, that's really awesome. And the coolest thing about Games Day for me was that the people that were there, everyone I talked to was building really good stuff. And they were builders, they were either game developers or infrastructure providers for game developers or investing in real games and that kind of thing. And that's a really, really important piece. And then the last thing I would say is just that, games take a really long time to build. And we need to support them in that journey as they build those out. Whether it's a new game like Laddercaster or like a bigger company from Web2 or a small studio, it takes a lot of time. And crypto moves really fast at a really quick pace and overnight, and we all love it. And like Twitter overnight gets really lit up and stuff, and it's fun. But we also have to recognize that we're building hard things that take a long time. And so when we talk about it at Fractal, we talk about building infrastructure that's going to need to run for games when they launch in 2 to 3 years, right? Now, there are more games coming online, like we saw at Games Day, in the short term, but we want to make sure that we're supporting them in the long term as they go launch and take a long time to build out their really beautiful game. So I don't want to say like we need to be patient as a community, but we need to use our funding wisely. We need to be here for a while, because if we want this to succeed, we all have to like work together, as we were talking about earlier, and then we have to actually execute on really good product for a long time. And product is hard to build, and so that's what we focus on. And it was cool to see that start to come to fruition at Games Day, because people were having really fun. And we saw we got 1.5 million streams from that guy on Twitch or whatever. So it was a really cool experience.
Andrew, please share your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, back to what Dan was saying about, it does take a long time to build these games, and I think so much of this like aggression around the when game, like Gib game, right, is that people don't get to actually experience and have hands-on time with this game, with these games. And with Game Day, it was like, that was what I loved about it. Like it felt like a Solana hacker house, but it was different because there were people actually getting to like touch products. Like that was so core to the entire experience, was everybody gets a chance to play something.
Almost
and actually
40 games you could play.
Yeah, I mean that's like unheard of. And then you had the actual the Twitch stream that had all those viewers. So it's sure you're getting to touch it as well. But then also these people that aren't traditionally in this crypto space are also showing the rest of the world that like these are actually fun games to play too. So I mean I think the Game Day was absolutely a phenomenal experience, and getting to see and feel that energy, like it was very palpable, and I look forward to more of those.
Aiden, you had a game developer booth at Solana Games Day. How was your experience?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, the energy there was definitely palpable. I mean, you talk to anybody who's there.
You think a Web2 gamer coming, I don't even know what a Web2 gamer is, but a gamer that did not know Web3 beforehand, if they attended Solana Games Day, how do you think he or she would have felt?
I mean, production value was like a holy shit moment, that's for sure. Like walking in there felt like I was in some, I was in a genuine like Games Con. I was there experiencing real titles being built. Albeit not many of them are at that final production stage, but we're showing what we have at this stage, which is really good. Getting it out in front of people and getting real-time feedback is super important. I still think we have a long way to go till we get to the point where these actually look and feel like real Web 2 games, if we want to call them that. I hate doing this. Web 2 every time. But like the traditional gaming industry has they have a true refinement process because it's a product, right? They're thinking about the product and they want to have the best possible first moment of interaction with their product, and that's what they're thinking about. But given the industry, given the timing, we're really trying to get out there and socialize the products. And what I can tell you is that I was impressed walking around there, and I'm definitely a hard ass on this kind of stuff, and especially seeing guys like BR1 and Genopets and all of these really awesome games who I met a year ago, and now looking at the progress that they've made in just a year, I actually truly think, like Dan, you're saying, like really hard problems that people are trying to solve in these things, but seeing the rate of the velocity that these people are moving at is very energizing, and it's exciting.
Yeah, we're very excited of this current wave of Web3 games, hopefully correcting the narrative of Web 2 games versus Web 3 games, and kind of the deserved narrative of Web 3 games not being fun first, player experience first products. As you guys all saw at Solana Games Day, every single game there is fun first, player experience first, right? And I think that answers the question we started today. Just focus on that. Right? On the Web3 games backend vision, right? Because blockchain is both a business model innovation in games and a tech innovation, a backend tech innovation. And so I think we all are on path to get to the kind of business model place and the value prop there for the player is clear. But on the Web3 backend, when we are building it with other infrastructure folks like yourself, it's going to take a lot of building together. Right? Do you think we're there yet, Dan, on like building together?
No, definitely not. Sorry, I see too many people, fighting about things that we shouldn't be spending time on.
Totally.
this is still capitalism, this is still product, this is still execution. We're still building really hard software, and just like in Web 2, we have to work together to do that. And that's why we take like a partner-focused approach to every single thing we do. And we don't ever, we want to be like mature people in the space, because we have to like keep a level head as we build all this stuff together, and it's not going to happen overnight. And also, we can't get distracted by, I guess, kind of short-term changes in the market. Like, we're probably going to go through 2 or 3 more bear bull markets before a lot of the best crypto games are going to be having millions and millions of users. So we have to focus on making sure that we not only have financing and economic models for the companies building infrastructure that get us through all those different months and years, but we also need to make sure that we're focusing on building products that are going to work in 2 to 3 years and don't just solve the problems we're having right now or that we see in 2 weeks. And that's how I want to make sure we do this going forward.
Appreciate your thoughts. I think we'll close there. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.